This is my first ever passport, and this little blue book changed my life. So I got it in 2012, and then New Year's Day of 2013, I left the country for the first time. I went to Costa Rica for a 3-week homestay, and then that same summer, I spent 2 months in Shanghai, China for a biomedical engineering internship. And then that following New Year's Day, 2014, I left to London for about 6 months for a semester abroad. After that, I visited another 17 countries, and I'm gonna share with you 20 things I learned about the world, travel, and myself during that time. Costa Rica and China were the first 2 countries that I visited, and unfortunately for me, I don't speak Spanish or Chinese. But something I did learn early on is that you can still communicate without speaking the same language. And of course now there's plenty of translation apps, but body language and gestures also go a long way. Sometimes a smile can say 1,000 words when there's a language barrier. From that, I also learned that people are generally kind. We hear about so much bad in the world and on the news, and it's easy to believe some of the stereotypes that you may hear about a place or a group of people. But at the end of the day, everyone's just out searching for the same thing, which is happiness and fulfillment, really. There's relatively very few people in the world that actually seek to be hateful. So as far as language barrier, the good news for us English speakers is that a lot of the locals are as well, depending on where you go. But the bad news is we'll never get a true, authentic experience or feel of the country if we don't speak their language or at least have someone translating for us. I learned that travel doesn't have to be super luxurious or expensive to really enjoy it. So when I first started traveling, which was in college, I was lucky enough to get grants from my school to pretty much pay for all of it. But I had very little spending money. So when my friends that were also studying abroad and I started backpacking around Europe, a lot of times we stay in these $8 a night co-ed hostels, like a big room with 6 bunk beds and communal shower type accommodations. And other nights we took overnight trains so we can just sleep on the train and didn't have to pay for a night at a hostel. We made friends from all over the world in the hostels. We figured out the local bus systems of the cities that we were in, and we tried McDonald's in every single country that we went to. And there were definitely some times of discomfort, yet it created some of my funniest and most adventurous memories from traveling, which also taught me how to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And this came in handy because I've been uncomfortable about 70% of my adulthood. But basically I learned how to navigate in unfamiliar places with unfamiliar people without panicking, even in those places where I didn't understand the language or customs. From that, I learned how to be more comfortable with embarrassing myself. Now, I don't just go out seeking embarrassment, but there were a lot of things I was afraid to do or say out of fear of it. So when I learned how to be more comfortable with being uncomfortable, I became much better at putting my embarrassment fears aside for the sake of going after what I wanted. In addition, being comfortable with discomfort taught me how to adapt quickly in different environments. Because I became less in my head about unfamiliarity, I became more willing to just jump into things and make mistakes early, knowing that that's the quickest way to learn and get acclimated. With that, I learned how to stop over planning when it comes to travel and just go with the flow. My best experiences visiting a new city were when I let the adventure find me. Like, I'll have a loose plan for the day, but if things take a detour, I'm much better at welcoming it than I used to be. I briefly had a travel blog and stopped for that very reason. I would travel with certain expectations of places I wanted to see and photos I wanted to take that would just take away from my experience of visiting and exploring this new city. So because of that, I also learned how to just put my camera down and take in the moment when I travel. Now, I was definitely one of those people that posted 500 photo albums to Facebook for every city I went to and had to make sure I got the perfect photos for Instagram. And while I am grateful that I did capture some of those memories, trying to get those perfect photos to just show everyone that you're traveling takes away from the travel experience itself. I learned to travel for the enjoyment and maybe take some quick photos here and there, but otherwise just put my camera down and really try to immerse myself in the place that I'm in. I learned to stop limiting myself and to never say never. If you told 16-year-old Alex that in the span of 10 years she would be paragliding over Cape Town, South Africa, or spending the night in the Sahara Desert, or climbing the Great Wall of China, or visiting the pyramids of Egypt, or even going to the top of the Eiffel Tower multiple times in her life, she wouldn't have believed you because she wouldn't even have thought that it was remotely even possible for her. But in hindsight, through all these experiences, I learned that I can achieve anything I want to if I just believe in it and I work for it. From traveling, I became more open to trying new activities and trying new foods. And the new foods things was big for me because before I started traveling, my diet purely consisted of burgers, tacos, and barbecue wings. So the fact that I was in China eating eel and tofu was a big deal. Something I noticed is that food around the world is so different, yet so much the same. Like, everyone has their own special dish using native herbs and spices, but at its core, it's always just some combination of chicken and rice. I mean, I'm not mad at it though. Definitely a top tier duo. I learned what it really means when people say that music is universal. I'm very much a 90s and 2000s R&B girl, which I thought didn't leave the US until I started going to clubs in China and realized they were playing my whole Spotify playlist. And that was almost a decade ago now. But it's amazing to see how much more global music has become, especially with like new genres like Afrobeats and K-pop becoming mainstream in the US. Speaking of the US, I learned that it's not that great. In the US, we're taught that America is just this utopia compared to other countries. And I won't even get into the laundry list of reasons why that's not true. But there are so many other countries that do better than the US when it comes to safety, equality, just quality of life, and just taking care of their citizens. I learned the value in having friends around the world and how much of a privilege it is to be able to experience their culture in their own home and learn about their perspective. From that, I learned that it's also okay to change your own perspective as you learn from other people's cultures and stories and experiences. There's so many things that we do and believe to be true based on our own upbringing. We're taught how we're supposed to live our lives, what we should and shouldn't believe in, how we should behave. But as we travel and learn how other people live their lives, we naturally compare their lives to our own and may realize that we align more with their culture or their customs or ways of thinking. I learned how to strike meaningful conversations with complete strangers, and also learned that one of the best ways to connect with new people is just to find the commonalities between you. The key really is just to ask people a question that will get them to either talk about themselves or something they're excited about, and just listen intently until you hear something that you can relate to. From doing that though, I actually started to really enjoy hearing other people's stories. I learned that people that are totally different from you are some of the best educational resources because they can introduce you to new people, new opinions, new concepts that you might not have been familiar with or maybe never would have heard of otherwise. From traveling, I also started valuing experiences over possessions. Once I discovered the magic of traveling, every single dime that I saved that didn't go to my living expenses went to travel. The adventures, the memories, the new and deepened connections I made with some of the people that I was traveling with brought so much more value to me than anything that I could buy at the store. And lastly, I realized how small the world can suddenly seem when you start to travel. A place that used to seem so far out of reach can feel easily accessible once you've already traveled there. And on top of that, as you're exposed to new cultures and perspectives, you're able to connect with people and places that used to seem so foreign at a certain point in your life. So I hope you got some value from hearing some of the things I learned as a 20-something world traveler. And if you enjoyed it, please like the video and subscribe to my channel.